What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fishing for a Reason podcast. This is Jamie Propst. I am the founder and creator of Anglers Unlimited, where we help people catch more fish and have more fun. The best way that you can support this show is to hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow along so you never miss an episode. Today, we have a really fun topic to cover, something that I have been doing some behind the scenes research on myself. And I'm really excited to share this data and information with you guys related to strategies for chumming for halibut. We've all been there. You go fishing for halibut, you're new to the sport, maybe you're not quite sure what you're doing exactly. So you go out there, you drop anchor, you think you have a perfect spot, and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting, and your rod does nothing for an entire day. You come home frustrated and empty handed. I can say every single halibut fisherman that is fishing out in the San Juan Islands or the Salish Sea area has had this experience because it is a tougher fishery in this area. You absolutely can have some extremely productive days, but you're not going to have 100% productive days. But like any fishery, there are things that you can do to level up your ability to put more fish in the box. And that's what we're going to specifically talk about today is one thing. If you just do this one thing, you are more likely to attract fish to the boat than any other thing. And what is that thing? It's chumming. It's your chumming strategy. So a little backstory on halibut fishing. Long before Scott and I actually started fishing together as a couple, we both had two very memorable halibut fishing experiences. And one thing that he and I do, we talk about fishing all the time. So when we started dating, we were sharing stories about different fisheries and different experiences fishing. And I asked him, so what was your favorite halibut fishing memory? And he was sharing this story about a day that he went out with three people and they anchored up on a spot that they had been out to before. And he had some shrimp bait left over from a shrimping day because there was a shrimping opener the day before that he had gone shrimping and he had some leftover bait. So he happened to grab it and throw it on the boat with them. And he used that shrimp bait to actually chum for halibut on the spot that he had fished before. And no joke, he caught, I think he said he was in 90 feet of water and he caught three different halibut, or he limited out with three halibut in a very short period of time. It was within like 45 minutes. So he was pretty excited about that experience. And it got him really thinking about the value of having a strong scent. And so he asked me, okay, what about you? What's your halibut story? And there was a time I was with my ex-husband out on the boat. We were intending to go halibut fishing for the first time. We had no experience halibut fishing. And we went out. Unfortunately, it was one of those days where it's beautiful water, but there's a lot of fog. And that boat did not have a radar. So unfortunately, it was safer for us to just stay close to home. It was thick fog. So we ended up just going to Burroughs Bay, right around the corner from Washington Park, where we had launched. And he called his uncle, who is a commercial shrimper, and said, hey, we're out here in Burroughs Bay. Do you know any good halibut spots? Because we didn't necessarily know where we should be in that location. And he goes, the halibut really like to hang out around my shrimp pots because I have some really nice shrimp bait. So he showed us where his pots were, the coordinates. And we actually anchored up in that spot, a little hole that looked like a really good spot for halibut to potentially be as well. And we just hung out. And lo and behold, not 30 minutes later, he had a 52-pound halibut on, and we harpooned that thing, got it on the boat, and lost our minds because it was like, holy cow, I can't believe I really had thought we weren't going to catch anything that day. It felt like Burroughs Bay was too close to home to potentially hold up some halibut, but we did, in fact, land that 52-pounder, which was really exciting. And when Scott and I were having this discussion, we both obviously realized, hey, wait a minute. There's some correlations here between our two stories. Both of our epic experiences had shrimp bait involved. So maybe there's something to that shrimp bait strategy and that chumming strategy. So this was a little bit of a light bulb for me, and I wanted to dig into the science behind it and see, is there really something here that's worth implementing consistently in our fishery more and more? So he and I went out on another trip. We brought shrimp bait, basically similar to shrimp bait. And we threw it out in the water and we were limited out at Coyote Bank in about an hour of two really nice big halibut. So I'm a science nerd. I really like to dig into the why behind these kinds of things. So I started looking into, okay, what is the research behind scent? What is the research behind how halibut smell? And it turns out they are very scent-driven predators, which most fish are, and they have an olfactory system that's 100,000 times stronger than ours. And it's very comparable to salmon. They don't need to see your bait to strike. They do need to smell it. So although they do use visual cues as well, it's not always a guarantee that the water is going to have great clarity for them. So they rely more on their sense of smell to actually find bait and find things to feed on. So the olfactory system includes nostrils, also called nares, which pull water into sensory chambers, and they also includes olfactory rosettes, which is packed with cells that detect chemical signals. So stick with me here. There's a reason to all of this. And then there's an olfactory bulb, which processes those signals and tells the brain, hey, that's food, go towards it. So why does that matter when we're chumming? Because halibut can actually detect specific amino acids that is prevalent in their preferred diet. These specific amino acids, which have been researched, are alanine and glycine. They can detect them in very low concentrations. So these are some of the same compounds that oily, protein-rich bait fish release into the water as they die and break down, which makes sense. So as they pass through that olfactory system, the halibut says, hey, that's good, solid food for me to consume. I'm going to go towards it and find it and eat it. So when those compounds hit the halibut's olfactory system, it triggers a feeding response, even if fish are hundreds of feet away. So then I was thinking, all right, cool. We know that they are really reliant on smell. That makes a lot of sense. So how can we use this information? Those two specific amino acids are our preferred attractants that they want to eat. So alanine and glycine. Which bait has higher levels of alanine and glycine so that we can use these things inside of our chumming strategy. And so it was cool because that's where science really backs smart fishing. Amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, and the more protein and the more oil means more scent, which makes a lot of sense, which is why we use a lot of oily things inside of our scents. So the top bait choices for halibut chumming based on amino acid content are mackerel, horse herring, sardines, anchovies, and then canned chub mackerel. Also, fish-based cat food. So we use cat food in our chum, and you want to choose the fish flavor because it's a powerhouse ingredient and includes hydrolyzed proteins as well, which are already broken down into amino acids like alanine and glycine, which are perfect for chumming. So if it's an oily, fishy, rich muscle tissue, it's probably loaded with the amino acids that halibut crave, which is exactly what we want. We want to draw those fish to our boat. So understanding the science can help us upgrade our fishing game plan in a really big way. And now we can build a chum mix around biology of what halibut are actually designed to detect. So it's not really about the stink, it's about the science. So when you're choosing a high amino acid bait, you want to focus on that oily, protein-packed fish. So now I'm going to quickly share my screen and there's a little chart here that we created that shows the different level of the specific alanine and glycine content in these common halibut bait sources. So you can actually find the food profile and the amino acid profile of several different ingredients. And so we looked at what these were in a big database, and you can see the difference. Octopus and squid come in at the lowest, which those still make a really great bait. One of the reasons is they're both very tough material, and that tough material will stick on your hook regardless of what's going on with the current, or if, something starts chewing on it that isn't a halibut. So octopus and squid make really great baits, but from a scent standpoint, your best types of bait are mackerel or the horse herring, as you can see. And then you've got your chub mackerel and cat food over here that rank really high, and that's going to be present inside of your chum. Knowing this, and if you actually take mackerel and you use it as a bait, you're going to feel how soft it is. That stuff does not stay on very easily. Usually you're better off at least wrapping it or somehow having a secondary way to secure it to your hook. And there's a reason for that. It's got a ton of that oil inside of it, and it just softens up so very nicely, but also beautifully attracts the fish to you. So we pulled together this data from a Journal of Amino Acids and Fishery databases. They compared and contrast those different alanine and glycine content across different common halibut baits. And you can see the difference here on this chart if you are watching the video. If you're not watching the video, I'll just explain it a little bit to you. You can see that mackerel and horse herring do rank the highest, where octopus and squid are the lowest. And you've got sardines and anchovies in the middle. Chub mackerel and cat food also rank very high, which makes sense for them to both be used inside of your chum. So this stuff is all just really freaking cool, because understanding how biology is actually creating these scent attractants can help us become more effective fishermen out on the halibut ground. Now, what else do we need to know? There's also a study that NOAA did that was researching how scent disperses in the water based on currents. Okay, so now you know exactly what you need to be using. You've got to have something that has that high oily content level. And we have a very specific recipe that we use. And if you do want access to that, you can just go to the show notes and click the link to get access to it. We'll have a whole little list of exactly how we make our chum, as well as a video walking you through the step-by-step process. And that you can find that at anglersunlimited.co/chum and grab that anytime, or you can find the link inside of the show notes here. Okay, you've got this really awesome chum. You're super proud of it. It's the right consistency, that peanut buttery consistency. Now you want to put it in the water in a way it's going to attract the halibut. So something that's really important to think about is how the current is going to affect the spread of the scent that you just took so much time, love, and energy into making. So according to NOAA research, even the most modest current of 0.6 centimeters per second, which is like nothing, your bait scent can travel up to 43 meters in just 2 hours. So obviously what that means is faster current will mean your scent will travel farther. Also, a faster current will thin out your scent. So slower currents are going to create a thicker, more concentrated trail, but they're just not going to go as far. So when you're setting up to anchor, you want to take a second to visualize where your scent is actually heading. That's why we always say you don't want to be looking at the tide change. You want to be looking at the current. So what we are typically targeting is a 1 knot current. That's perfect. That's the sweet spot. So we want to be fishing at that 1 knot current, which is just enough time for that scent trail to get pushed out nice and far, but it's not totally ripping and insane. Super easy to fish. So starting at that 1 knot current with a current that is slowing down over time until current change, that's perfect for us. The second thing you want to think about is bait spacing can actually strengthen your scent field. So if you're fishing multiple fishing rods, NOAA modeling actually showed that baits spaced just 2 meters apart created a significantly combined scent plumes than bait spaced 4 meters apart. So you can use that kind of information depending on the size of your boat to think, all right, where am I going to put my bait in relation to my chung bag? You want to maximize that scent plume to draw the fish to your boat and draw the fish to your actual hook. And a lot of times guys will say, whoever is fishing closest to the chum bag is going to be the one that hooks up on the most fish. So why not alter your program accordingly? If you know that you have enough space on the same side, maybe you put both rods on one side, on that same side towards the chum bag. So there's a few different things you can do to think about that. Tidal movement can bend your scent trail also. So tidal currents often are not static. They'll rotate, they'll shift, they'll swirl, as you guys know. So that means your scent trail is not always going to be in a perfect straight line behind the boat. That being said, I want you to think about how halibut swim. They swim into the current. So you want your scent drifting out. The halibut are going to be pointing their nose into that current and swimming up that bank to find those fish for them to consume. And even though the tides are going to be shifting things around, as long as you keep that general foundation in mind, you're going to be fine when you're out there. So one other thing to know is when the tide just starts moving, you're going to get the maximum movement with the most minimum tidal confusion. If that makes sense. So if you're fishing in new water, pay attention to what direction the scent is going so you can adjust an anchor differently. The first hour is your prime time of your bait. So another really interesting thing in this NOAA study is Up to 40% of the bait's scent compounds are released in the first hour it's in the water. So after that, the potency actually tapers off. So knowing that, you want to have enough extra chum material or at least some sort of oil to refresh that chum every hour at minimum. Another good trick is when you are chumming, if you drop it all the way down so it bounces bottom, that's going to jar what's inside of your chum container and let more of that scent trail out. So you can do that every few minutes. We usually try to do it every 20 minutes or so. Just do a little bump. It's going to send a burst of cloud of stuff out, but every hour you should do something to refresh your chum. So all that being said, chumming is a really fun and effective way to draw fish to your boat. And I think it's one of those things that is often underestimated by newer fishermen. They're like, oh, I've just got something in the freezer. I'll grab some old fish, maybe a chicken, and throw it in a bag and call it good. And I really want to encourage you to take your chumming strategy more seriously. So what we actually do, and I'm very excited about this, you can check out my new addition to our arsenal, our fishing arsenal. I actually had another blender. It was just a cheap old blender and it was glass. This one's plastic, which I'm excited about, but the glass one did get hit and it fell and it shattered. So we had a blender disaster, which meant our chumming ability has slightly decreased in the last few weeks because I didn't have another blender. So I did just get one. And this one is one I got. It's a Ninja. And here, let me show you the blade. Here is the blade that goes on the inside. And this thing is awesome. You can see how high it reaches up. It's going to have a really good ability to chop up some of those old baits, even if they're frozen. So I have a very specific method when we create chum. And as I just explained to you, there's a lot of science about why and what we choose and how we use it, and also the consistency. You really want it to be like a shrimp bait, but we don't use the pellets, so nothing like that. We specifically just use a very slurry and a secret ingredient. So if you grab that opt-in, you'll be able to see what that secret ingredient that most people do not use in their chum for a very specific reason. But you want to make sure the consistency is like peanut butter. And we're using those shrimp container tubes, like the 9-inch tubes. You can put them in a chum bag and then just take the chum bag and attach it to your downrigger. Or you can also get those baskets. There's like a little basket and it'll fit right in there. But we like the 9-inch tubes. And what I like to do is I take my blender, I create a couple batches of it, and I have a bunch of those tubes right before halibut season or right before the week we know we're going to have a bunch of trips, and we'll just make a big batch and then freeze them. And I call them chumsicles. So you take like the tube, it's the same shape of my water bottle here, and you'll fill it 3/4 of the way full. You do not want to overfill it, so it allows some space for it to expand. Throw it in a plastic bag and then pop it in your freezer. So when you are ready to go out fishing, you can be confident that you have a really highly effective chum that's actually going to draw fish to your boat. So one little trick though, do not use your home blender. Your significant other will probably not appreciate it. Just have a separate blender for your chum. Just trust me on that one. Nobody wants to be consuming halibut amino acid compounds in high concentration and eating cat food. But these blenders, one trick that you can do is go on Facebook Marketplace, or you can go to your local thrift store. You can go to Craigslist. I got this thing for $25 because it's somebody's old blender that they didn't need anymore. They upgraded for whatever reason. And let's be real, I'm not going to be eating out of somebody's old blender. That's disgusting. But I'm absolutely happy to make a chum recipe out of it. And these are like $100 blenders. So it's a great way to get something that's really high powered. The Ninjas are good. The Vitamixes, I think they're called, are good. You can get a meat grinder. The generic little blenders is what I used to have. And I'll be honest, it was a little underpowered. It was hard to get the bigger chunks of bait to get as small as I wanted. So I'm pretty happy about this upgrade. So highly recommend, go get yourself a $25 used blender and have a blast creating a chum-tastic chumming recipe. So I encourage you to go out there and try it. Throw it in the water. Make sure you have your chumsicles ready to go. And I would love to see a picture of that next monster catch that you get. So you can find us on Facebook. You can find us at anglersunlimited.co. You can hop into our Facebook group, our free Facebook community. Just search Anglers Unlimited in San Juan Islands and you'll find us. And we'd love to see how it goes. Thanks for tuning in. and go have a chum-tastic day. See you next time.